really was? I mean, you can't stop talking about it.
I haven't seen it since my original viewing of the movie until this week. And I have to say, Connor and I talked about this briefly as well. When you know the huge surprise plot twist at the end ahead of time, it makes the second watching of it even more fascinating because you see how many little things that you missed the first time around because they just went past your consciousness until you knew what was going to happen.
And then we're also going to be joined by maybe our youngest guest we've ever had, Vihan Chaudhry. He's a senior at Lindbergh High School who's raising money to help football teams buy helmets, and he's also designing helmets. I think he's going to have the highest IQ in this office.
I guarantee he's going to have the highest IQ. Well, I mean, maybe not past Connor. Connor's pretty brilliant. The senior members of the staff here in this office at this time, I think he'll beat both of us by a long shot.
All right. Remember when Dr. Rick said yesterday about how if you're over 50, in 5 years I'll be there, you should be eating a lot of red meat.
I think it's over 60.
No, I think he said 50.
Oh, did he?
He did.
Okay.
So anyway, because I went to Costco and I'm a believer in that, when I woke up today, I had steak and eggs. So I've had like steak for the last like 5 meals.
Yes, he's mentioned this a couple of times, and every time it just brings you so much joy. It's like he's written you a prescription to change your life.
It's really tasty. Monique says she sees me eating this big, huge steak with eggs today. She goes, I think you had enough, all right? No more. But because when you buy at Costco, you normally buy big portions. So I don't want the meat to go bad. So I just keep eating red meat every day. It's ridiculous.
Yes. Yeah. You have just named a really big challenge in a lot of people's life, which is especially I would say maybe a lot of wives' lives whose husbands go to Costco on the weekend and you bring back giant amounts of whatever. And then you have the challenge of that week of eating it before it goes bad.
Yeah.
I can really identify with that for sure. Thanks for those of you checking in. And daughter Jane landed this morning at 5:15 a.m. our time, 6:15 a.m. Singapore time. She's she works at Yeti and down in Austin, and she's in their product team. So she's over there.
I'm a supporter of the product.
Yeah, we are too.
What a great company to work with.
Yeah, it's been great.
Who doesn't like Yeti? You know, the only anything that's ever said about Yeti is positive, and let's say, well, it may be a little pricey. I don't even know if it's pricey, but there's not one person I know who doesn't think Yeti's like unbelievable.
It's pricey. I would say that's, at least by our standards, it is. So, and very, very good quality. So both of those things are true.
Was Yeti the first to come out with this product where you can, like this drink I have with ice water will be icy cold at 11 p.m. tonight when I'm driving home?
Yes, and their cooler is amazing. She gifted us with one when she started with the company. It will keep stuff cold for days and days. Do we need a forklift to put it in the back of the car? Perhaps, but it is good stuff, good products for sure.
So I got a text from a friend today. Morgan Freeman is coming to Kansas City soon. It was on Channel 5 this morning. Shawshank Redemption is such a quotable movie, and it got me thinking about what movies like would be considered the most famous in terms of like a single quote. And Shawshank, I think, has been watched by more men between the ages of 20 and 50, maybe than any movie. Caddyshack's up there. But I came up with my list. Go Ahead and Make My Day, the Clint Eastwood Sudden Impact. Actually, it's interesting because Jerry Maguire has two, I think, in my top 5.
Show Me the Money.
Show Me the Money, and You Had Me at Hello. Remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. Hasta La Vista, Baby, Terminator 2. And then in honor of Bruce Willis, since he's going to be on our show, going to be the subject of the movie, Yippee-Ki-Yay, Mother Blanker. That was huge.
So the only one that came to mind at first at all for me is probably the most cliche ever, which is Frankly, My Dear, I Don't Give a Damn. But that's Gone with the Wind. Let's see.
I'll Be Back, Terminator.
Yes. The Godfather. I'm going to make an offer he can't refuse.
Or even from Godfather 2, Keep Your Friends Close, But Your Enemies Closer.
Here's Looking at You, Kid from Casablanca. I would have thought, I guess around our house, a lot of the movies that get quoted, which I'm not a movie quoter because, as we all know, if you're a regular listener, my brain is like Swiss cheese, can't hold on to them. But a lot of things like Caddyshack gets quoted a lot, Talladega Nights.
I have that going for me, which is nice. How about I didn't have this in my top 5, but it probably should have been. is A Few Good Men, You Can't Handle the Truth. In fact, I wonder if that is even the most famous of them all.
Yeah, I love the movie The Graduate, and so the classic line, Mrs. Robinson, are you trying to seduce me? By the way, we saw that on stage earlier this year. Clayton Community Theater did a really good rendition of their stage rendition of.
That was Anne Bancroft with Dustin?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, she was she was neat.
And I think, don't you like how neat gets used to describe the hot women that he approves of?
Yes.
I just noticed it's never used describing a male actor's performance in anything. Yeah, Pamela Anderson, she's really neat.
Taxi Driver, You Talking to Me? With Robert De Niro looking in the mirror.
Hasta la vista, baby.
Yeah, definitely.
Yo, Adrian.
Oh, boy. That was huge.
How is that not number one on your list?
Yeah. I don't think enough people, well.
Oh, yeah.
I
I
don't know
think
if it's up there
anybody
with
of a
these.
certain age would, for sure. I would say Yo, Adrian is up there with the other ones we've quoted. Give us an objective perspective.
I will say a lot of Franks are definitely, they age, Frank. You know, I don't know how many people actually watch Caddyshack anymore, unfortunately.
That's again between probably 40 and 70.
Yeah, so you said like 20 and 50, but I think maybe you got
Not
to keep
Caddyshack.
updating.
Yes,
it, you
because
know?
I was
Caddyshack
talking.
is even older.
Yes, you always remind me of that, Connor, because I was talking about the movie 9 to 5 last week, and Connor's like, "Yeah, that's not one that anybody in my generation would have ever even heard of." And I was like, "Oh, God, yeah."
All right, let's take our first break. When we come back, the opening dialogue on the Frank and Jill Show. You can watch us on Facebook today and what
YouTube.
else? And YouTube, yeah. We're up on camera as we speak. We'll take a break. We'll be right back.
At Maryville University, we power dreams, not just degrees. For nearly 150 years, we've empowered graduates to build successful careers. At Maryville, expect a rigorous, technology-driven, mentor-inspired education in a diverse and inclusive learning environment. We help you take it to the next level, no matter what field you choose. Now is the time to turn your ambition into action and transform your dream into reality. Start your journey at maryville.edu.
Electricity is very important because if you don't have electricity, you're sitting in the dark in more ways than one. And when the lights go out for one last time, maybe, just maybe, you want a whole home generator. Well, that's where Michael Baldy comes in because Michael Baldy can do that. He's putting in a whole home generator for a friend of mine on the hill. Whether you live on the hill or a brand new home, at some point you're going to need some electrical help, and that's where Michael Baldy comes in. He's been an electrician since 1996, and he has a full team of electricians who will help you every single step of the way, whether it's a whole home generator, maybe some extra plugs for the Christmas lights, maybe it's something in the basement, something in the attic, maybe the garage, doesn't matter. Whether it's an old Victorian home or a brand new commercial building, indoor or out, Michael Baldy, the electrician, has got to be on your phone. Put him on your speed dial, 314-968-9999, 314-968-9999. You can thank me later. Michael Baldy, BaldyElectric.com.
How would you like your vehicle serviced at your own home or office? Our new Mobile Service Plus, available exclusively from St. Paul Cadillac, can do just that. Hi, this is Joe Clemens. Simply give us a call or go to our website and get a unit dispatched right to your doorstep. This is a game changer for customer service, and we are so happy to offer it to you. Everything from oil changes, belts, new tires, tire rotation, recalls, key fobs, brake pads and rotors, EV charge, battery replacement, air conditioning service, and so much more. St. Paul's Mobile Service Plus will come to you. Call our mobile dispatch at 636-931-0055. That's 636-931-0055. Or go to our website at stpaulcadillac.com and set up an appointment. It's that simple. Get door-to-door service with St. Paul's new Mobile Service Plus. Nothing could be easier. Set up your appointment today. That's Mobile Service Plus, exclusively from St. Paul Cadillac at the Herculaneum Auto Mall exit.
You're selling your home, and I want to buy it. This is Mike Robinson with Robank Properties, and I am ready to pay top dollar for your home. No contingencies, no inspections, no monkey business. I buy your home no matter the condition or location, and you walk away with cash. Call me, Mike Robinson, at 314-283-0867, 314-283-0867, or at robangproperties.com. That's ROBANG properties.com.
Some of my fondest memories as a kid is heading down to the hardware store. You had to pick up a couple of nails, a couple of screws, maybe a gallon of paint, whatever it may be, right? It was your friendly neighborhood hardware store. Well, those don't exist anymore in St. Louis, except for Schnarr's Hardware. They have 2 locations in Webster Groves and in Clayton Road in Ladue. Schnarr's Hardware is that place where you go in and you can get that bucket of paint, you can get a couple of screws. The advice is always free. And the one thing about Schnarr's Hardware that every single family hardware store used to have, and that is the smell. It smells like a hardware store. It's got the selection. I don't know how they do it. It's a small store, but they got everything you ever need. They got the paint. They got paint matching. They've got big green eggs. They've got screws and nails and everything a hardware store should have. Schnarr's Hardware, 2 locations, 1 great hardware store. Schnarr's Hardware, we'll see you there.
And now the opening dialogue with Frank and Jill on the Big 550 KTRS. Powered by Worldwide Technology Raceway.
Thought 1. So yesterday we discussed the emotional drop-off for college. It killed me for sure, all 3 of them. But today I want to talk about how maybe it's not such a great idea for everybody to go to college, and how not going to college is a fine thing to do also. A recent study said that 90% of HR leaders are open to hiring applicants who don't have 4-year degrees. What about the benefit if you don't go to college, that you're maybe forced to mature quicker and become more of a self-starter? Or college can certainly make you memorize information, but does it really teach you to learn? Then the raw economics. The average college debt is $32,000 with interest over 10 years. Per one estimate, you end up paying about $42,000. That's $360 a month. That's paying it off in 10 years. But if it's 20 years with interest, that's over $50,000. Imagine writing a check when you're 35 for $360 a month for something that you've gotten out of, 15 years before. And not to mention, if you don't go, you are earning money right away and getting kind of maybe a 4-year head start. I don't know. I know that college can be very good, can be great, but not going to college can also be very good and can turn out great.
Yep, very good points all the way around. One of the things, though, you said something really key. If somebody doesn't go to college, then it is important that they have a degree of independence and they learn and they build those and develop those skills away from having their parents overseeing everything they do, because that we get into arrested development situations, which is often not healthy for anybody involved. So yesterday afternoon, I heard, all of the meteorologists, the wonderful meteorologists we have here on the air from First Alert 4, as well as from various sources.
Are they still on the air?
Yeah, they are. They're doing really, really good work, especially their meteorologists we have on the air every morning here. And they talked about some scattered thunderstorms. Well, little did I know that meant that we were going to have in our little neighborhood what's called a microburst. Tons of trees down in these winds that when I looked outside and the tree was bent almost over sideways, I thought, I wonder if I should be going to the basement with this. When I took the dog on a walk a couple hours later, I realized I probably should have, because there were some very big trees down. We had in what some have called a rain bomb, where we had several inches of rain in a very short period of time. I talked to other friends around the metro area. They barely got a sprinkle, but where we were, it hit hard. As a matter of fact, people in our neighborhood who had never had water in their basement before had said that twice this week we have had the bad luck of having the skies just open up completely. And there's video on the neighborhood Facebook group of just water pouring down like it's a river opened up into people's basements. Not good news. And it reminded me of just how quickly things like this happen. Our friend Lauren Knowledge from the incredible Balkan Tree Box, they've had an air conditioning issue this week. Shut down the business because you can't have in 90-degree temperatures, have customers and your employees being able to work. Other people at Pappy's, which is an incredible, of course, barbecue place, they had a cave-in on their street and then flooding because of that impacted business. We had this lesson as a region on May 16th when the tornado hit us hard. It's continued to remind all of us that things can be rolling along swimmingly one day, and then boom, Mother Nature, life, circumstances can change things very, very quickly. And it's just a little bit humbling to think about how much we take for granted when it's all going well, when things turn awry fast.
That's a good thought. Boy, that is. just one 4-hour period of crazy weather can change.
Yeah, and I think it was more like 45 minutes.
Yeah.
It was crazy. And then I was talking to other people, and I just assumed we all got hit by it. But no, it was pretty isolated, but it was hard.
That enters my thought 3, but here's thought 2 first. So the name Porter in Columbia, Missouri, and in this whole region is kind of famous for sports fans. And lately, it's become pretty infamous. They're the family that was supposed to lead Mizzou to big runs in the NCAA basketball tournament, both on the girls' side and on the boys' side. Michael was ranked by some as the top prospect in America his senior year, and brother Jonte was 6'11" and a wonderful player. Well, Michael got hurt, played only 3 games for Mizzou, went to the NBA. Jonte was good, not great. Michael did win an NBA title with the Nuggets, and they had plenty of siblings who were basketball players too, and the family was really tight. So then the bad stuff started happening. Coben Porter was a basketball player at Denver U. He got drunk, drove his car, killed a woman, and is serving a 6-year jail term. Jonte became the first NBA player in history to be kicked out of the league for gambling. He did it with prop bets. And to make this really easy to understand, there's like a line on each player, Jill, where the betting line is he's going to score 8 points, and you can bet more. He's going to score more than 8, or you can bet less. And so he would make sure on a couple of these bets that he would go less than the number. So they could gamble on this, and they're going to win the bet because he's going to make sure he either got hurt or sick or just didn't score. So he'd be under and everybody would win. So the NBA found this out, and they kicked him out of the league, and he'll never play basketball again in the NBA and maybe anywhere else. Anyway, that leads me to this podcast yesterday. Michael Porter, the world champion, was on, and he brought up some intriguing points. Yeah, and he makes it sound like, hey, you can almost understand it. You can almost see why somebody would do that. They get all their friends a lot of money. All you got to do is have a couple of games under the point total, and you're in. But I will say this. If your brother just got booted out of the NBA for gambling, avoid the topic at all times. I mean, stay away from that, Michael Porter. Your brother is done for good for gambling. I don't think I'd comment on it, although I appreciated the candor. And by the way, if you're an NBA player making crazy money, why even risk it? You know the rules. You know what you can and can't do. You got to run so far away from gambling. And it's not like Jonte Porter was lacking for money either. So it's just nuts, but an interesting story.
So I know less than a tiny amount about any of this, particularly about betting. But tell me what's the name of the bet where you bet on the individual player's performance?
Like a prop bet.
A prop bet. Isn't, and I agree with everything you said, especially from a public relations perspective, should he have said that? But I do appreciate the candor because he's highlighting a really big systemic risk in all of this. And I know they talk about there's all these, supposedly watchdog people that are trying to keep people. But what's to keep a pitcher from throwing a bad pitch in the first part of the game because if that's what that prop bet is, or
that literally happened.
Yeah, the
You
Guardians.
just described it. What happened?
And what's to keep, there's all kinds of stuff out there. I mean, if I'm an official, if I'm a coach, if any part of this process, and anybody in my life could use a few $1,000s and it would change their life, which that's true for a lot of people in our country, why wouldn't I get something out of this system where a lot of people are getting rich and other people are not, all on the backs of these players' unbelievably pressurized performances? I wonder if he's not highlighting something that needs to change in the system more than.
Are you saying there shouldn't be a thing called prop bets?
I think so, because you cannot monitor and or control the individual players. And what about players that just have a really bad game or or do get injured and it's real? Doesn't it harm their integrity?
Well, so here's how they kind of monitor it, because it's not like they go and investigate everyone that's ever thrown a bad pitch on their first pitch, which is what the Cleveland pitchers have been getting in trouble for. It's out in the open now, gambling. It's legal in many places. what they do is look at bet patterns, is and they know here's the range we'd expect to get on this prop bet.
Yeah.
And if suddenly someone or multiple people came in with a lot of money, they're going to go and look into that. Are they completely disconnected? Okay. Or, this turns out to be, his childhood friend that he tipped off. Then you're going to start getting in trouble.
So it's like
why
insider.
would there be an exorbitant amount of money bet on some obscure player like Jonte Porter to score under 4 points?
Okay.
Backup.
So there's an internal monitoring or
Right.
an external monitoring system that's
Like maybe they'd expect to get, a couple $100 bet on like an obscure player like that. And if suddenly on a random Tuesday game they come in and there's 20 grand coming in, it's not always a sign that there's something nefarious going on, but it's going to tip them off. But I mean, you could be
You can
right.
track everything.
They could just get rid of the
So
props, and there's
system-
none of this.
The
is
system is
necessary.
built, or is attempting at least to look for, I'll call it insider trading
Yeah,
kind of
irregularities and
issues,
people
which is
trading.
good. I still think sometimes though when things like this happen, people say, "Oh, well, we can't put that cat back in the bag. We can't have any limits on NIL money or on the number of time people transfer or on some of this kind of stuff because it's already been out there once." I think we can
That-
look more
it would
holistically
be-
at it.
Well, it's a beautiful thought, but I'm telling you, these prop bets, and I know guys who do it every night. They are extremely popular. I mean, I think more people bet on prop bets than the actual game. I don't know that for sure, but it just
They
feels
probably
that way.
could come in with some limits, though. Like the amount of props they give now are really kind of for every player on the roster that might play. Maybe they only give out a few for. It's harder to, discreetly influence something if the number's really high. If you need to score 25 points, it's harder to go over under, or it's easier to point or harder to point shave that than getting under 5.
I think
don't
the
know.
only sport of the four majors where it hasn't been affected is actually hockey. So
Yeah, I'm just saying maybe some
Yeah.
light guardrails about it. Real quick, second thought for me. It's been a thing in St. Louis sort of for a while, and that is but particularly around places that had golf courses close by. So maybe by Whittemore Country Club out in St. Charles or in Forest Hills, where people who live in homes would drive around in their golf carts a little bit to other parts of life. In the city of St. Louis, anybody who's been there driving around in the last 2-3 years, really since COVID, golf carts have become a huge way of people driving to and from places, to and from restaurants, to and from all kinds of places. Wall Street Journal says it's taking place all over suburbia and urban areas all around the country. It used to be a mainly southern thing. You saw it in neighborhoods in places like Atlanta. I was going to ask Josh Gilbert, I didn't have a chance before we went on the air today, in places like Newtown, if golf carts are big to get from point A to point B in communities where you have stuff.
I think Josh has a golf.
Yeah,
cart.
I think I remembered that conversation too. But it's interesting. You go to places like 30A and people aren't driving cars to any of the restaurants down in northern Florida when you're down there on vacation. A lot of the houses come with golf carts. You take them everywhere. So Today's Show did a story on it today as well. Some people say it's dangerous. People are letting too young drivers use them. They use them as an excuse to drink and drive. People aren't properly restrained. I think if you look at the number of people that are driving golf carts in both urban and suburban areas, the number of accidents you hear is actually relatively small. And hey, it saves some gas money and people find it fun and novel. I don't see a big problem with it, but I know they're starting some people are starting to raise their eyebrows. What do you guys think? Do you see them where you live? Do you think it's a problem? Do you think it's just fine?
I remember
Banks,
when Alex
Missouri.
lived in Dogtown, he bought one, and it was like the coolest thing for a long time. But he moved out, so
And when Dom moved in there, he said, "You can't have my golf cart."
yeah, I think Alex sold the cart. Yeah,
He
but
wasn't
it
gonna.
is kind of cool when you see it in these communities and people driving around to restaurants. It's kind of neat.
Yeah. Royal Banks, Missouri, text line 84126. What are your thoughts?
All right. Thought 3. So heard the nicest story about Ali Marmol and confirmed it with him yesterday during a Sports Plus interview in his office. So he has in the past and will still do in the future, instead of flying to or driving back from Chicago for a game, he'll go with his family in his car just to maximize time with his bride and his 2 girls. I just love that. It's awesome. So, quick story on the interview. We arrived at Busch Stadium during that freakish storm. It was nasty. And an employee told me yesterday that yesterday and Sunday were the worst storms he can ever remember at Busch Stadium. Anyway, as a media member, you can't park close to the stadium anymore. You can't. And we had to get in the building to be on time to do this interview. And if we don't do the interview then I have a 5-minute hole on my show, Sunday Sports Plus. And we got killed.
It was raining sideways, wasn't it?
Insane. The umbrella immediately just broke. And we're walking at least a quarter of a mile. Shoes, shirts, drenched. And the equipment was so bad that we shot it with 2 cameras, but only 1 camera you can use because the other one was so damaged. Sport coat, likely destroyed. John Mozeliak looked at me when I walked in, president of the baseball operations, and just kind of shook his head. And I said, can I expense this sport coat since it was damaged here? His response, I didn't ask you to come down here. I'm not complaining, but if people really only knew what we do for 5 minutes of TV, it's crazy. The real hero, though, is my photographer, Randy Schwenkert. He's a trooper. He was battling. We were carrying equipment. But, yeah, I felt like I was in my shoes. I was in water all day long because I couldn't change shoes.
Yeah, for everybody that just got a sprinkle yesterday, they really think you and I are exaggerating. I mean, I live less than a mile from the stadium, so it was the same. Yeah. But it was craziness, the amount of rain that was coming out of the sky in that 30-minute period. And Sunday was the same kind of thing. It's like, how is this happening? It was crazy. Well, yesterday it was my turn to spend about an hour at the DMV getting our boat licensed. I was a little skeptical when I walked in Kings Highway office. There was a very long line. The place smelled a little mildewy and musty, I'm not going to lie, but it had just rained cats and dogs, so I was hoping that it exacerbated whatever the situation was and that there wasn't some kind of black mold issue in that location. Whole visit made incredibly more tolerable by the 5-year-old, extremely energetic little guy who was in line with me, behind me, he and his granny next to me. He was hilarious. He had so much energy. He can run really fast, by the way. So fast it'll make you dizzy, he kept saying. He had a lot of karate moves, and God bless his kindergarten teacher as he's starting school in the next couple of days. She is going to need the patience of Job and a strong will to keep up with him, and she's going to need a lot of activities to keep him occupied for the whole day. But let me tell you, a friendly kid who has lots of fun, excellent karate moves, and a stream of consciousness reporting on everything he sees, including some very direct question he asked me about things I was wearing and what I like to do in life, sure made that wait in line a lot more tolerable.
And how long was it officially?
About an hour from start to finish. And by the way, I had a really competent clerk who went above and beyond to help me out through the process, because you have to have all those pieces of paper. And then, you know that panic when you've waited in the long line and then you get up there and you're like, I don't have the one thing I need. Fortunately, I did, and I got out of there in one trip, which is success.
All right, let's break. When we come back, Sarah Fenske's going to join us. Back to the feature, Tar Khan, a little bit later. This is the Frank and Jill Show on the Big 550 KTRS.
Diana from Newstetter's Fine Jewelers here to remind you, we don't just offer the best pieces, we offer one of the last master hand engravers in our country. My father can create timeless, personal, and unforgettable pieces. Come by our showroom at the corner of Big Ben and Doherty Ferry, or learn more online at wowdiamonds.com.
Make a splash this summer with Dogtown Pizza. The weather and the pizza ovens are heating up, so stock up on 12 different flavors of your favorite Dogtown. Why cook hamburgers on the grill when you can get a hamburger pizza? Hot chicken, the SOB and for me, and from the garden, tomato, basil, garlic, and the veggie. Make your next pool party a pizza party with 12 different flavors of Dogtown, one for every swimmer in your house. Make it a Dogtown summer at every local grocery store and dogtownpizza.com.
A legendary weekend is coming to the Lou. Don't miss the Stiefel Charity Classic presented by Compliance Solutions, September 4th through 7th at Norwood Hills Country Club. Watch PGA Tour champions compete and enjoy a live performance by music sensation OAR at Friday's community concert presented by CarShield. Tickets start at just $20. Kids, military, veterans, and first responders get in free. Get your tickets today at StiefelCharityClassic.com.
Heidi here for Premier U. Everybody is talking about the miracle weight loss drugs, semaglutide and tirzepatide. Studies show an incredible average weight loss of 20% body weight. Premier U offers the generic equivalents to the breakthrough GLP-1 weight loss drugs at a fraction of the price of competitors, as low as $3.99 a month, and they're available right now. Call Premier U at 618-7-WAIT. Mention Mention Heidi and receive $100 off your first month. Telehealth consults available located in Swansea and South County or premierumed.com.
There are some common side effects for both semaglutide and tirzepatide, including nausea, vomiting, constipation, bloating, diarrhea, and lack of appetite. Learn more at premierumed.com.
When you pay for tree work, you want to be sure you're getting the most for your hard-earned money. That's why you should always use the ISA certified arborist at River City Tree Service in Baldwin, Missouri. Hi, I'm Steve with River City Tree Service, and we've been the go-to tree service since 2008. Tree removal, tree trimming, storm damage, deadwood removal, stump grinding, and more. Give River City Tree Service a call for all your tree service needs at 314-270-8071. That's 314-270-8071. River City Tree Service.
At Midland, we know sometimes all it takes is a moment. A moment for an idea to spark, or to make it happen. A moment to find your dream, or build one. A moment to start your forever, or at least start planning for it. Whatever moments you have, Midland is here for them and can help you make them. Midland, brighter together. Visit us at midlandsb.com. Midland States Bank is member FDIC.
This is Mariah, third generation at Newsteaders Fine Jewelry. Buying an engagement ring can be intimidating. At Newsteaders, we ensure complete understanding of your purchase. We offer a choice in both lab and mine-grown diamonds and are able to work with any budget. Let our family help educate you on your choice at Big Bend and Doherty Ferry or at wowdiamonds.com.
Welcome back, Frank and Jill Show on Hump Day. Happy Wednesday to all of you. Jill Farmer, Frank Cusimano, Connor McCarthy here. And Wednesday mornings, we always get the inside scoop on hot topics happening in St. Louis by one of my very favorite journalists, Sarah Fensky, executive editor of St. Louis Magazine, editor of the St. Louis Daily Newsletter. Sarah, happy first back to school day for your girls today.
Yes, I am glad to have them out of the house. It's a wonderful day.
I know. It's that we talked a little bit about this yesterday. It's those mixed emotions from this time of year about being sometimes a little bit nostalgic about how fast they're growing up, and then also being ready to not be the one that's entertaining them 24/7 and then lamenting being in that tight schedule back again. Where are you on the spectrum of all those emotions?
Oh, it's pure relief. I'm just annoyed that today is only a half day and that tomorrow we don't have aftercare. I'm like, come on, bring on this school year. I am ready for it.
Ready for that structure for sure.
So what's your takeaway from the Michael Steinberg story?
Well, I think, learning a lot about what he's up to in Chesterfield. It's not a place where I would choose to live, but I think it's a great option for a certain sort of suburbanite who wants more of a walkable feel. I like what he's doing, and I feel like I could see this could be really attractive. I'm thinking about my sister. She was somebody who didn't want to deal with the hassle of living in a city, but she would have liked to be able to walk to shops. And I'm thinking, okay, it's nice that St. Louis is going to have this kind of option. He's doing something here that nobody else has done in St. Louis.
So I really enjoyed at the last year at the St. Louis Art Museum, the traveling exhibit they had that took a look at life in the 1920s, and they had some really incredible artifacts from Josephine Baker's life. Now, the Missouri History Museum has landed a huge get when it comes to Josephine Baker. A big collector is turning everything over to our museum.
Yeah, this is a very important and big collection. 450 plus items. They say it appears to be the largest collection of Josephine Baker memorabilia anywhere in the world. And Mary Strauss, who I'm sure many of your listeners are familiar with, she's a very generous person here in St. Louis, has an interest in theater and old movies, and she has come through once again, and she has donated this entire collection to the Missouri History Museum. And so it's actually being unveiled. I think even as we speak, people are gathered in the Missouri History Museum to celebrate this remarkable collection.
My colleague at 5 on Your Side, Justina Cornell, has a new position, and it's quite an honor for her. Tell me about it.
Yeah, it's very cool. They have set up for the first time a chapter of the National Association of Hispanic Journalists in St. Louis. And I was able to talk to Justina, who's the new president of it. I talked to her yesterday. She said when she first came to St. Louis, it was the big city for her after working in a smaller market. She just assumed they'd already have a chapter. Well, it turns out at that point there were only about 4 Latino journalists working in St. Louis, you need at least 10 to have a chapter. So they've been sort of slowly but surely growing their numbers and laying the groundwork, and now they have finally done it. They now have established this chapter. Not only do they have the 10 that they needed to get it set up, there are now 14 members. So they have pulled this off. It's just really a happy moment, I think, for Justina, who worked really hard for this.
Something else you guys reported on a little bit earlier in the week, WashU's chancellor, Andrew Martin, has been not afraid to stand up to the Ivies in some rather public forums because there's a lot going on in higher education right now. Higher education versus the current current administration in Washington, and all kinds of other things going on. And Andrew Martin has not been afraid to take somewhat of the road less traveled when it comes to institutions of higher learning. What did you guys report on that?
Yeah, so we were relying on some excellent work that was done by The Atlantic, but we wanted to bring it to our readers because we felt like it explained so much that previously had been inexplicable. It turns out there is this civil war that is brewing in higher education. And there was this famous letter that like 700 college presidents signed taking a stand against Donald Trump. Andrew Martin didn't sign it. And people are saying, well, where's WashU on this? Well, it turns out behind the scenes, what's been brewing is that there are sort of two camps that are developing. One is being led by the Ivy Leagues. The other is being led by Andrew Martin and his cohort at Vanderbilt University. And they have a strong philosophical difference with how the Ivies feel about what's happening in higher ed. In the Ivy League, they feel like Trump is a problem to be resisted and to be withstood and to be endured, and that when Trump goes away, that higher ed's problems are more or less over. Andrew Martin feels very differently, and they make an interesting case in the Atlantic story that is because he's operating in Missouri. He sees what's happening with the legislature here. He sees this is not really just a Donald Trump issue for higher education. He told the reporter in the story, it's really misguided to think what's happening in higher education is a blip and we're going to return to where we were before. And, you know, living in Missouri, you can kind of see what he means. That bipartisan support for higher education is gone. So how college presidents react and adjust to that has led to this civil war. Very provocative headline on this Atlantic story where they said the elite college presidents who despise each other. And Andrew Martin is apparently one of the most despised. So there you have it.
Can we tell if it's working? I know this has nothing to do with it, but last night, I think on our newscast at 10, we had the Princeton Review's Best College Book results, and WashU was voted to have the best college dorms, best quality of life. It really received some high national marks. But can we tell if the difference in philosophy is working, or is it just too early?
Well, I think it's not necessarily the difference in philosophy that is going to lead you to be topping that Princeton list. It's more about sort of the long-term currents in higher education. I think the reason that WashU and Vanderbilt are even able to sort of take this stand and sort of say, hey, the Ivy Leagues aren't moving in the right direction, we are, is because these are two tremendously successful universities. You know, they've already shown that they know what they're doing. I think they're saying, okay, we're also laying out this path everybody should be following. Whether they can win the hearts and minds of all these higher ed institutions, that I think remains to be seen. At this point, it feels like they are in the minority among this group.
So in lots of print media as well as broadcast media over the last couple of weeks, it's been a very big story that Bar K, which was the beloved dog bar where you could bring your dogs over, I believe, in the Grove neighborhood or Forest Park Southeast neighborhood, closed. And then another big round of news when it came back. And I have to say, McGraw-Milhaven raised a pretty interesting point on this yesterday. He's like, why is the news media so obsessed with one bar going bankrupt and then somebody else is going to take it over? He goes, that happens all the time, St. Louis. Why do we care so much about this one? What do you think?
Well, I'll tell you why the news media is all over this is because this is one of these stories that people are sharing and reading, and it's going viral. When this happens with other businesses, I promise you, like, we're writing about it. Other media outlets are writing about it. You're not seeing it on your social media feeds because people don't care enough to retweet it or to share it. People are really into this concept. People were so excited to find out that it was coming back. You know, if you see the Post-Dispatch write 5 or 6 stories about something, it's fair to say they know that's a story people are clicking. And I think that's what you're seeing with this Bar K story.
Some positive news about St. Mary's High School. And we had on the McGraw show, their president, Mike England, in, and they are making some strides on their own in terms of enrollment. And this is with their new group as they finalized a campus purchase from the Archdiocese.
Yeah, I mean, this is very cool. You know, I think we all thought that St. Mary's was going to be gone, and this was going to be a big problem for the families that rely on it. It was going to be a huge problem for Deep South City. And it turns out they have pulled this off. They were able to complete the purchase of their campus from the Archdiocese. They paid $1.5 million. I think the Archdiocese gave them a nice price here. It shows there's not bad feelings going forward. They just wanted to sort of be rid of the management of this, and now this group has stepped up to take it over. Something else that's very cool, they now have some partnerships going on with local trade unions and also with SSM Health that they announced at this ceremony yesterday that are going to help these kids get apprenticeships and other things that'll help them get on-the-job training so they don't end up in obsolete careers like journalism. It feels like a win-win. They really got the community involved with shoring up these kids' future.
Such good stuff, Sarah Fensky. As always, thank you so much. We didn't even get to all the juicy things in the St. Louis newsletter today, so make sure that you go to St. Louis Magazine and sign up for the free St. Louis Daily newsletter in your inbox every morning about 6 a.m., always chock full of good tidbits. Thanks so much, Sarah.
Yeah, thank you.
Premier Heating and Cooling, one of my favorites always. You guys have heard me talk about it. You got a couple days of reprieve, and then we are coming in hot with very, very hot weather. We talked about the fact that there's been some St. Louis businesses this year that have had big interruptions of business of their business because of air conditioning issues with their HVAC. Premier Heating and Cooling is not just excellent for helping out regular homeowners like me and like you, but they also do an incredible job at helping businesses as well. So if your business, you know it's time to upgrade your HVAC system, reach out to premierheatingcooling.net, 636-916-1122.
And now, KTRS weather from the John Beal Roofing Weather Desk.
Some heat and some humidity, sure, today and tomorrow, but nothing too extreme. I think it gets hotter and even more humid as we head from Friday into the weekend. But in the meantime, not bad by August standards. We'll call today mostly sunny, a near normal high at about 88. Let's be ready for a spot shower or thunder shower possible, but a lot of dry time. Mostly clear skies overnight tonight, not bad, a low of around 70. And then tomorrow, just a touch less humid even. Mostly sunny, up to 89 on Thursday afternoon. Let's be ready for highs in the mid, maybe even upper 90s from Friday through the weekend and into Monday. That's when the heat index reaches triple-digit territory. Again, that's Friday into the coming weekend. From the First Alert 4 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers on the Big 550 KTRS.
John Beal Roofing is the home of the lowest price roofing guarantee. Get a free estimate today at johnbealroofing.com.
Your biggest choice in home restoration is who do you trust with your home, your most valued asset. Few can match Banner Construction's experience and dedication to excellence. Banner is an elite preferred James Hardy contractor and Pella Window specialist. Restoration is a one-time opportunity to have Banner's design team show you architectural options to make your home the neighborhood showcase. Call for a free consultation, 314-569-1050. And have a banner day.
Grounded to third, diving play by Arenado. Think of the out! Unbelievable!
Get ready for the ultimate showdown. The New York Yankees come to Busch Stadium the weekend of August 15th through the 17th, and they're bringing the star power. See sluggers like Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton take on your Cardinals in one of the biggest series of the season. Finish off your summer in style with the Cardinals and Yankees. Great seats still available. Get yours now at Cardinals.com.
This is Nolan Arenado, St. Louis Cardinals for the Lou.
Summer in St. Louis means one thing: Cardinals baseball. It's more than a game, it's an STL tradition. The crack of the bat, the roar of the crowd, the boom of the fireworks. It's the soundtrack to summer for Cardinals Nation. So grab your cap and glove and take your spot in the stands, because in St. Louis, baseball is more than a melody, it's our favorite song.
The Missouri Laborers Union and their contractors invest in people, making them extraordinary. How? Through training, creating careers, providing good wages, having superior health insurance, and a strong retirement. These are just a few of the many ways they invest in their members. The Missouri Laborers Union and their contractors understand the importance of having a strong workforce, and it starts with investing in people. Go to buildunion.com for more information.
Since 1974, Permajack of St. Louis has been helping residential and commercial owners protect their biggest investment. From successfully solving foundation structural problems to making sure basements remain dry, Permajack has performed tens of thousands of projects on both sides of the river, utilizing state-of-the-art technology, techniques, and equipment. Permajack of St. Louis has done it with honesty and integrity, never recommending anything outside of what you really need. For many repairs, Permajack provides a transferable life of structure warranty, all while Permajack of St. Louis has earned a BBB A+ rating and accreditation for foundation settlement, bowed or buckling walls, cracks in your foundation, walls or bricks, or basement waterproofing. Choose the hometown family-owned team at Permajack of St. Louis. Schedule your free inspection and estimate at permajackofstlewis.com. That's Permajack of STLewis.com. Permajack. Solid as rock.
All right, welcome back. This is the Frank and Jill Show. Back to the feature coming up with Tariq Khan, the Sixth Sense movie at 11:08. At 11:35, we're going to visit with a 17-year-old senior-to-be at Lindbergh High School. They start, I think, next week. And he's doing some amazing things in terms of football helmets. A great benevolent act by a young man at a really young age. Getting some good text here today. It'll be interesting to see if Martin and Vanderbilt's chancellors are correct or if the Ivies are. Another text, many universities have not supported free speech and diversity of thought, the opposite of education and learning. Some have billion-dollar endowments. So stop sending federal funds to them, writes this texter.
Your earlier subject, we were talking about some of the greatest quotable lines. One of the ones that I think, 10 people probably texted in, of course, from Jaws, we need a bigger boat.
Yeah.
May the force be with you. That's definitely one. 'Tis a Scratch from Monty Python. That's a different one. And then this is one of my all-time favorites. Nobody puts baby in a corner. I've definitely, that of course, from a classic 80s film. So very, very fun. Lots of you pointing out that the golf, we talked about, putting, we can't put things, you can't put the things back in once they've already been implemented. People say the golf cart thing, too big, sales are just too booming. And so there's no way that that's going to change now. But in a couple of different municipalities around St. Louis, apparently it says you must be a licensed driver to have them. And then somebody else pointing out in rural areas, the use of side-by-sides and ATVs definitely is where there's been more danger. There's been some pretty horrific accidents on those.
Frank, how dressed up do we need to be to go to Paul Mano's? It's very casual. In fact, there's just not many restaurants anymore where guys wear sport coats and definitely where guys wear suits and ties. Seems like everything in St. Louis, you're okay with a nice polo shirt and long pants.
Yep, good one. Somebody from the 314, I worry about golf carts coexisting on streets with larger vehicles. People run stoplights, families in carts with small children. I hope it's that I'm being too worrying. From the 314, I loved the Porter gambling insight.
All right. Have you ever heard of a guy named David Booth? He was the guy that co-founded Rex Singfeld's index fund a long time ago. I think it's called Dimensional Fund Advisors.
That was a good move.
Yeah, good move. Well, yeah, he's done okay. So David Booth today is donating $300 million to the University of Kansas. Wow. I've never even heard of anything like that. $300 million. Rex donated $50 million for research at St. Louis University.
And that was so, I remember when that happened, it was just like, wow, no, it's not ever going to get that big. The cost of what it does, I mean, the cost of higher education, as we've talked about a couple of times, has gotten ridiculous on many fronts. The other side of it is the cost of doing things like replacing old buildings for colleges is very, very expensive. Do you remember when it wasn't that long ago when we would have said spending $100 million on a building. And now every building seems to cost $100 million.
How old do you think Busch Stadium 3 is? Take a guess.
20 years?
Exactly. So we were going to do an interview in one section, the owner's box down by the clubhouse yesterday, but it was flooded Sunday, and it got more flooded today. And there's some leaks all over the place. I think, God, this building's it seems so young to me, but it's been around for 20 years. So I guess, we've heard Bill DeWitt talk about we got to put money into the stadium. I guess they did.
Yeah, he did on our show. I mean, he fairly, that was just beginning to be talked about a little bit when we were talking about getting some of that funding from the Missouri legislature so that Kansas doesn't end up with all that money. He said nobody wants to think about the fact that 20 years is actually hard on a building, and we do need that. Isn't that funny, though? My kids are always saying, I'll talk about the new whatever, right? The new Busch Stadium.
Yeah.
Like, when does it, Mom, is 20 years still count as new? I said, well, relatively speaking, yes.
I still think it's really gorgeous. I still think it's just a beautiful facility. And you there with a lot of people like I was on Saturday night, it is just a gorgeous setting.
Very well said. Hey, we have a lot more coming up in the show. We're back to the feature with Tariq Khan, and you're going to want to hear from this incredible young high school student. All of this after the news.
What are you doing every day to support your liver? If you enjoy sweets, fast food, alcohol, or take any medications, that's a vital question to ask. Hi, I'm Sherry Torkas, pharmacist and health author. For over 30 years, I've helped people make informed decisions about their health, especially concerning prevention and long-term wellness. Supporting your liver isn't just a wellness trend, it's a daily essential. That's why I recommend Active Liver by New Nordic. It's made with plant-based ingredients like milk thistle, turmeric, and globe artichoke, herbs clinically studied for their protective and restorative effects on the liver. Active Liver blends traditional herbal wisdom with modern scientific research. Not all supplements are created equal. I trust Active Liver because it's backed by science, meets strict quality standards, and delivers true daily liver support.
Protect your liver and give it the support that it deserves by making Active Liver from New Nordic part of your daily wellness routine. Find Active Liver in stores at your local CVS, Meijer Grocery, or online at Amazon or NewNordicUSA.com.
One of the great things about living in St. Louis are the great hospitals, and none better than Cardinal Glennon Children's Hospital. It is a special place, and if you don't believe me, talk to any parent who's had a child who was treated at Cardinal Glennon, and you will see the pride in their face. So, for all of the doctors and nurses and staff at Cardinal Glennon Children's Hospital, we thank you for all the work you do day in and day out. To find out more about SSM Health Cardinal Glennon Children's Hospital, glennon.org. That's glennon.org.
The Big 550.
From KTRS, St. Louis.
Key talks held today between President Trump and Ukraine's President Zelensky about a ceasefire negotiation with Russia. The virtual meeting included Vice President J.D. Vance and European leaders and comes 2 days before President Trump meets with Russia's Vladimir Putin in Alaska. European leaders are asking for security guarantees, and President Zelensky says he urged President Trump to push for an immediate ceasefire when he meets Putin. It comes as Russia is making advances on the battlefield in eastern Ukraine. Here's ABC's Martha Raddatz.
Zelensky saying this morning that there is no sign that the Russians are preparing to end the war, and all countries that want peace should force Russia to make peace.
Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent warning Russia faces more sanctions if bilateral meeting doesn't go well. President Trump at the Kennedy Center announced this year's Kennedy Center honorees. It includes country music star George Strait, Broadway performer Michael Crawford, actor Sylvester Stallone, and singer Gloria Gaynor, and members of the band Kiss. It's the first nominees announced since Trump took over the Kennedy Honors Board. Israeli leaders have approved a new military operation in and around Gaza City. This as Palestinians continue to die from starvation or violence at aid and food sites. And families in Israel push for the release of Hamas-held hostages and an end to the war. ABC's Jordana Miller has details.
The families right now are absolutely distraught because they staunchly oppose going into Gaza City, expanding this operation, because they believe that it's a death sentence for their loved ones.
The Israeli Hostage Center has called for a nationwide strike on Sunday to pressure Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his hard-right coalition to agree to a ceasefire. 3 people were killed in Tennessee following severe flash flooding in Chattanooga and Hamilton counties. You're listening to ABC News.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free. Just go to this exclusive web address, ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
School resumes this week in much of Los Angeles County, where campuses were wiped out in January's firestorm.
At Marquez Charter School in the LA Unified District, students will be returning to classrooms on Thursday. But because their campus was heavily damaged in the Palisades fire, they're temporarily learning at a nearby elementary school. Lisa Timmerman is a principal of Marquez Charter.
Our enrollment's down. Some families that lost their homes, they've relocated.
Work to rebuild Marquez Charter School is underway, and students could be back on their campus as soon as this fall. Alex Stone, ABC News, Los Angeles.
In Pennsylvania, an urgent search is underway for 2 gunmen who robbed a Brinks armored truck near Philadelphia, getting away with nearly $800,000. The driver of the Brinks truck walked into a building with a bag full of money, and that's when 2 masked and armed men rushed in and ran out with the bag of cash. Lieutenant Andy Snyder is with the Cheltenham Police Department.
A scenario like this is very, very dangerous when there's firearms involved. Could be, somebody in the area that doesn't see what's going on, gets involved in a gunfight. So we're definitely concerned this could escalate to somebody getting seriously injured.
The driver said the suspects forced her to hand over her weapon before taking the cash and fleeing the scene. Today, the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Eastern District of Pennsylvania announced 3 people have been charged following a Brinks truck robbery in June. TSA's new facial recognition ID program now operating at 14 airports. Michelle Franzen, ABC News.
This is KTRS News. I'm Sobe Bay. A 14-year-old girl is recovering after an accidental shooting in St. Louis. Police say kids were playing with a gun late yesterday afternoon along the 5800 block of Cabanne when the girl was shot in the arm. A 15-year-old was taken into custody. A more comprehensive review of prospective law enforcement officers prior to hiring will be required under a new Illinois law spearheaded by State Senator Doris Turner. This is in response to the shooting death of Sonia Massey. Turner joined Governor J.B. Pritzker, members of the Massey family, and state and local leaders at the bill signing on Tuesday.
It requires law enforcement agencies to conduct a more comprehensive review of a prospective officer's past employment to ensure his or her physical and psychological fitness for duty as a police officer before making an offer of employment. If that would have happened with Sean Grayson, Sonia would still be here with us today.
The new law will take effect in Illinois on January 1st of 2026. Former St. Louis Alderman Brandon Bosley fired his attorney just days before his trial is set to begin. The St. Louis Post-Dispatch reports that Bosley and his attorney, Diane Dragon, said they disagreed on the defense strategy for the charges of wire fraud and lying to the FBI. Once a new attorney is appointed, this will mark Bosley's 3rd attorney. Bosley's trial is scheduled to begin on August 25th. The president of the St. Louis County NAACP is throwing his hat into the political arena. Yesterday, John Bowman announced his candidacy for Missouri's 14th District Senate seat. Another baby was saved through a safe haven baby box in the St. Louis area. The Millville Fire Protection District is reporting a baby girl was placed in the baby box on Sunday afternoon. She was taken to an area hospital and is said to be in good health. This is the second time a baby has been surrendered at the Millville Fire Protection District baby box since it was created back in August of 2023. The 47th Annual Baldwin Days kicks off tomorrow. The event includes entertainment, food, and carnival rides. Baldwin Days runs through Sunday. And dates for this year's Battle of the Bands charity competition have been announced. Details from KTRS's Steve Potter.
The free 4-week music competition will take place every Wednesday night in September at the Hub St. Louis, a 40,000-square-foot outdoor space located at the District in Chesterfield. Organizers say 10 bands will compete over the first 3 weeks beginning September 3rd, with finalists taking the stage September 24th. Admission for the public is free, but audience members can buy $5 voting tickets to support their favorite band, with proceeds going directly to that night's featured charity. Those charities change every year, but this year they're Friends of Kids with Cancer, Chad's Coalition for Mental Health, and the Walk to End Alzheimer's. The Battle of the Bands raised almost $10,000 for last year's charities. Steve Potter, KTRS News.
And this KTRS Business Minute is brought to you by Walter Knoll Florists, the place for all your floral needs. Place your order anytime at WKF.com. Right now on Wall Street, the Dow Jones is up 350 points to 44,809. S&P 500 up 12 to 6,458. And the NASDAQ is up 29 points to 21,711. KTRS Sports, the Cardinals were blanked by the Rockies 3-0. Matthew Liberatore took the loss as he was only able to go 4 innings. Mizzou transfer linebacker Josiah Trotter is on the Lombardi Award watch list. The Lombardi Award is presented to college football's best lineman or linebacker at the end of the season. KTRS weather today, a mix of sun and clouds, a chance of rain, high of 89. Tonight, cloudy with showers possible, an overnight low of 70. And tomorrow, mostly sunny, high of 90. Currently, we have 83 degrees at 11:08. I'm Sobe Bay, KTRS News, the talk of St. Louis.
The Sixth Sense. I think the finest film in Bruce Willis's catalog, up there with Die Hard, Pulp Fiction in this one. Budget $40 million, box office $672 million. Tariq Khan is here. Overall thought on why this thing was so great.
Okay, first of all, Frank, let's just address the elephant in the room, if we could. That it's famous for its surprise ending, and as most people know, you watch the film and you probably didn't realize at the time. You find out at the end that Bruce Willis is a ghost. He's dead through the entire movie, and that, of course, is the famous surprise ending to The Sixth Sense. And it's funny, I interviewed writer-director M. Night Shyamalan, that year at the Directors Guild of America Awards. He was nominated for Best Director, and I asked him about the film, and he explained to me that it had to be, in a way, two separate good films. It had to be good for the first an hour and 40 minutes, while the viewer is watching it, as they, of course, introduced the characters, set the plot in motion, kept the viewer intrigued and captivated and wondering where this movie was going. And then, of course, once the big reveal at the end took place, when you realized that Bruce Willis had been dead the entire time, then it was a separate film, because then the viewer had to look back at everything that happened and put it all together and say, wow. So he said that was what had to happen, and at early screenings, when he went, to view it with test audiences, the reaction was just over the top. I mean, people loved the film, and it worked so well. And it's funny that the famous surprise ending, it's one that very few people at the time actually picked up on. So that's one of the things that I think was really brilliant about it, that so few people actually realized, what it was when they're watching it.
I think so too. I think The Crying Game and yes. This movie had the biggest. Just absolutely shocking ending. And this is the first time I've watched the movie knowing what the ending was. And if you watch it knowing it, you're like, oh, how did I miss that the first time? There's a lot of things that feel obvious when you know what that ending is. But I thought it was really brilliantly made. You actually have a connection to Haley Joel Osment, of course, who was the child actor who was brilliant in this film.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's funny. When the movie came out back in 1999, I was working on the NBC studios in Burbank, California, for the show Access Hollywood. And during that award season, when Haley Joel Osment was nominated for the Golden Globe Award and the Screen Actors Guild Award and then the Academy Award, he would actually come to the studio once a week to be interviewed. And guess whose job it was to greet him and his family every time they came in? It was mine, yes. So
Oh my gosh.
yeah. So for a few months, every week when they came in, I was the one there to say hello and take them to the studio. It's funny, actually, you would actually see me on camera several times when they were introducing the segment. I would be there, with Haley. So yeah, and I told him before the Oscars, I told him how astonishing he was, and that win or lose, that this performance would hold up forever. People would be talking about it for decades and decades to come, which is true. And I told him I really didn't think he would win. He lost, unfortunately, to Michael Caine in The Cider House Rules. So much for my own sixth sense. But I think he should have won. He was just brilliant. Haley Joel
Meanwhile, he's
Osment.
crying, going, Tarek said I was going to
Exactly
win.
right. And then he said, "I see dead people." Tarek for his bad prediction, right?
And where does it rank in terms of like best performances ever by a kid in a movie? I wrote down a few. Jodie Foster, Taxi Driver. She won, right?
No, she lost.
No, Tatum O'Neal won in Paper Moon.
That's right.
Okay.
Yes.
And then Macaulay Culkin was really good. River Phoenix, Stand By Me.
Yes.
Linda Blair, Exorcist.
Witness, which we saw last time. I can't remember the name of that child actor.
Yeah,
he
very
was
good. Yes.
incredible.
Oh no, I think Haley Joel Osment. I think one of the great child performances in film history. No, without a doubt. The only one I might put ahead of him would be Anna Paquin in The Piano, who won Best Supporting Actress of 1983 for that film. But aside from that, I think Haley Joel Osment was just a standout. And it's funny, at the time, at first, M. Night Shyamalan was, I think, actually hesitant about casting him, but then realized that he had the qualities that Cole needed to have.
And he was only 9?
When they shot the film.
How does a kid do that? I mean, we ask 9-year-olds to memorize the Our Father, and they struggle with that. And this kid's doing scripts like this.
I know. It's funny when I would interact with him, back in the year 2000 during that award season, he was remarkably just so composed and so mature and so polite. And I thought, boy, I need to learn from this kid. So yeah, I mean, it really was an astonishing performance, a very challenging role, thinking what that character had to go through, and he just knocked it out of the park.
Oh, really fascinating. If you're just joining us, Tarek Khan, of course, Academy Award expert, currently working at KSDK here in St. Louis, but we're lucky enough to get him here for our Back to the Future segment where we rewatch classic and award-winning films. I had no idea, but the guy that breaks into the house who's mentally ill, that we find out later is the person who actually killed him, that was Donnie Wahlberg. He lost like 50 pounds a few weeks before I wouldn't, you could pay me $1 million and I wouldn't have been able to see that.
Exactly what Monique said last night at midnight. It's exactly, yeah.
And it's, by the way, it's funny. So that opening, sequence in the film where then, he shoots, the character's name I think is Vincent, he shoots Malcolm, played by Bruce Willis. And then they fast forward to I think a year later, and you don't really know. You're like, okay, he was shot, but then, you see a new scene and he meets up with Cole to be his doctor. And so you kind of wonder, okay, what happened, to the shooting, but you kind of forget about it really quickly. And so that's another reason why I think the movie works so well, is because so much happens then, and then at the very end, during the famous sequence where he realizes that he's a ghost, you see the shot again, and you realize, oh, he actually did die. So, but that part played by Mr. Wahlberg was very important, and in that small role, he was terrific.
And what a difference, and what range Bruce Willis shows in this role, because I guess it was 12 years before he did Die Hard. All those Die Hard movies were about physicality and looking all ripped. And then this one, he's this almost meek-looking psychiatrist.
Oh, absolutely, Frank. And it's interesting because at the time, the reviews that Willis received when the film came out was just, they were the best he ever had gotten. And critics were saying, Bruce Willis does something we really never seen him actually do before. He actually acts. This performance was so layered and so nuanced and so deep. And yeah, he was sensational. There was actually some Oscar buzz for him, but he never really hit any of the major precursors.
Did he even get nominated?
No, he wasn't.
This movie went 0 for 6?
Yes. It's funny because, yes, it was nominated for Best Picture, Best Director and Screenplay for M. Night Shyamalan, Best Supporting Actor for Haley Joel Osment, and Best Supporting Actress for Toni Collette, who played Cole's mother. But poor Bruce Willis, the star of The Sixth Sense, the ghost, he was overlooked. So I guess in a sense, nobody saw him. So
did he ever get a nomination?
No Oscar nominations.
Isn't that
ever.
Unbelievable? One of the biggest stars ever.
Right.
Never got even get
yes.
a nomination.
And The Sixth Sense, again, that year a major Oscar contender. And they nominated the likes of Richard Farnsworth in The Straight Story that year, and Sean Penn in this film called Sweet and Lowdown. And they couldn't make room for Bruce Willis. That really, I think, was unfortunate.
And when they go through some of the things the director said, things you should have noticed, the fact that Bruce Willis never changes his clothes the entire time. There's like when you look for these Easter eggs later, you can see them. The other one was the soundtrack wasn't available until a few weeks after the film's release, but the final track on the CD in a record store was called "Malcolm is Dead." So there was a clue there.
There you go. Talk about that. Yes.
Wow.
By the way, may I just mention there were I think a couple things. Watching it, again, that made you sort of question, okay, did this really work? I just wonder, there's a scene, for example, where Cole and Malcolm, Haley Joel Osment and Bruce Willis, they're in the school, and they're walking in the hallway talking, and I wonder, okay, so if he's a ghost and Cole was having this conversation, with him, I mean, wouldn't somebody notice that? So I kind of, wondered about that. And also the scene in the restaurant, because he shows up, remember, it's for his anniversary dinner. He apologizes to his wife, for being late, and she's all angry. And there's a moment where he's saying to her, he's talking to her, and for a second she looks at him, and it almost seemed like she really did see him at that moment,
Yeah.
but I guess not.
Well, yeah, in terms of, let's go over the most powerful scenes. I got to tell you, I think the biggest or the most powerful one was when the dead ghost, the little girl, gets the VHS to him, and
Yes.
then they play it, and the father realized his own wife was killing his baby.
Oh, yeah, and that was so shocking because
Yes.
really, as a viewer, you really had no idea what was going on. I mean, why is this, this little girl ghost? She's talking to Cole, to Haley Joel Osment, and giving this tape, and you have no idea what you're going to see. And then, of course, you see that the mother's been poisoning, the daughter, and then the reaction when the father and all those people, at the funeral, when they confront the mother. I mean, the look on his face and look on hers, yeah, that was so powerful.
From the Royal Banks of Missouri text line 84126, it's giving me goosebumps just listening to you talk about the movie The Sixth Sense. I absolutely loved that movie. I think we have to talk about one of the most impactful things to me on this rewatch was Toni Collette's performance as his mom. It's really layered. There's a lot to it. We knew she was a good actor probably at that time, but I think now I have a greater appreciation for what an amazing actor she is, and it really came through in this film.
Oh, yeah, Toni Collette, she was terrific. It's funny, she actually missed some of the key precursors of that award season, but she made the Oscar lineup for Best Supporting Actress. She did lose to Angelina Jolie in Girl Interrupted, who was the runaway favorite, but Collette, in a pretty small role, made such an impact. And I want to point out, the scene towards the end where she realizes when Cole tells her, his secret,
In the car.
and she reacts. I mean, her facial expressions. I mean, really, that moment was just incredible. If there had been no Angelina Jolie that year, I think Toni Collette would have won, and this would have been the one category where The Sixth Sense would have been honored. So yes, great performance, great actress. And by the way, Toni Collette's only Oscar nomination to date, if you can believe that, as talented as she is.
The whole love story angle, when at the end Bruce Willis says to his wife, "You were never second ever. I love you. You sleep now. Everything will be different in the morning." Boy, was that powerful.
It really was, and in a sense, I mean, the movie, it was about closure, I think, and so that was the perfect way for the film to end, because his character finally had closure. He saw that she sort of accepted that he had passed, and he made it clear that he did love her, and the movie ended in a really tender way. So I think actually, in addition to the actual surprise ending, that way of ending was, I think, very smart on M. Night Shyamalan's part, and really made it for just a great cinematic experience.
And how about the guts of him, the director, that he would not sell the script unless he directed it. It was almost Stallone-esque with United Artists and Rocky, that he believed in it so much, I'm not going to give you this unless I'm doing it.
Well, absolutely. Because really, at the time, he'd only done 2 films before that, films which nobody saw. The most recent one was this film called Wide Awake, which came out in 1998 with Rosie O'Donnell. And by the way, get this. I see every movie that comes out pretty much, and I save all my ticket stubs. When I interviewed M. Night Shyamalan...
You save all your ticket stubs?
I do, yes.
How many do you have, you think?
Oh, thousands and thousands. When I interviewed M. Night Shyamalan at the Directors Guild Awards, I told him that I was a big fan of his work, and I saw Wide Awake in the theater, and I showed him my ticket stub, and he was very, very impressed. Because that film, probably only a few thousand people in the entire world saw that movie in the theater, so he was very impressed. But yes, M. Night Shyamalan, this was, of course, his breakout, film. And after this, he became famous for all the surprise endings, these plot twists in
Did he
films.
do anything great afterwards?
Well, Signs, which came out in 2002 with Mel Gibson, that was a huge success. A great critical success, but after that, most of his films kind of disappointed. A lot of them did. The Village in 2004 was, I think, a bit of a disappointment, and The Lady in the Water in 2006 was also, I think, underwhelming. The Happening in 2008. So
it's almost like he just kept swinging for the fences and striking out, as opposed to just doing something that because it was such a hard. It was such a watershed moment in filmmaking, and had it was really the zeitgeist for that
and,
time.
hard act to follow, because this film made him famous for, surprise endings. So anytime he made a movie, people would say, oh, what's the surprise ending? So in a way, they kind of ruined it.
All right, for our movie watching fans out there right now, what have you seen recently that you would recommend to them?
Oh, well, I'm going to see it today. Freakier Friday, of course, Jamie Lee Curtis and Lindsay Lohan, reunited the first film back in 2003. They were terrific. That was a great critical and commercial success, so I'm excited about that one. The review's been very good. It's doing very well at the box office, so I would say that one. And also Weapons, this new horror film that's out in theaters right now, a great ensemble cast, including Julia Garner and Amy Madigan in a great supporting role. Should get Oscar consideration. That one is doing very well at the box office, getting great reviews, and there's even Oscar buzz for it. So Weapons playing in theaters right now, one to check out.
And before we let you go, Connor, I always want to hear what your thoughts are. You have seen Sixth Sense more than once as well. Do you think it stands the test of time, first of all?
I really like going back and watching it and knowing that he's, a ghost the whole time, because they're really... They don't cheat. There's not like there's not a scene where you're just like, oh, you're supposed to ignore that. He was talking, but just ignore that. No, he doesn't actually really interact with anyone the entire movie.
All right, so the next time you're in, you guys are you doing Mean Girls or How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days? I'm not here for that segment. Which movie did you guys choose?
We are doing Clueless on its 30th anniversary. Alicia Silverstone's breakout performance, a classic comedy from the 1990s. So Jill and I, we're gonna have a lot of fun, aren't we, Jill?
We are gonna have a really good time, and
Yes.
it also it has a really big nod to a literary classic. Which if you look for those connections,
yes,
it's really fun. Tarek Khan, always so fun to have you. We look forward to every time when you're here in our Back to the Feature segment. We'll be right back with Song of the Day, Quote of the Day, and then a young man you're definitely going to want to meet a little bit later in the show. Don't go away.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free. Just go to this exclusive web address, ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
It's Julie Buck here to tell you that the patio is open at Bishop's Post right next to Chesterfield Mall. Get your reservations in now and go to Bishop's Post. You will love it. Tell them Julie Buck sent you, bishopspost.com.
Hey, it's John Carney. A lot of conversations with the folks over at Allen Roofing, pretty much asking advice, because I know a lot of people got smacked by that storm, and he had some great advice for people to think about. First off, be careful of who you talk to when you're going to get some work done. Make sure there's an agreement, and the scope of work is laid out in that contract. Also, as you can imagine, a lot of contractors are busy. Give them some time, and you know what? Allen Roofing will come put a tarp on your roof at no charge, even if you don't use them when you get the roof repaired. Also, check the Better Business Bureau, see what the reviews are for contractors that you deal with, and also remember, insurance companies allow up to an entire year from the date of loss to file a claim. So you've got time to get those repairs done and that replacement done. Don't rush it. Just a few tips from the people that know roofing and repairs better than anyone. It's Allen Roofing, online at aroofing.net.
You know what they say, you never get a second chance to make a first impression, and windows and doors are usually that first impression when it comes to your home. Dalco Home Remodeling custom makes their windows and doors, and better yet, they make them here in Missouri. Dalco Home Remodeling is locally and family owned, celebrating 50 years, so they know a thing or two. The Dalco team is known for quality and customer satisfaction. That's the way it was 50 years ago when they started, and that's still true today. So if you're looking to change the look of your home without breaking the bank, call Dalco Home Remodeling. They do free in-home estimates. Just call 314-298-7300 and make an appointment. You can also check them out online at dalcohomeremodeling.com. As they've always said, if you buy somewhere else and find out how much you could have saved at Dalco, You'll blow your stack. So call Dalco first, 314-298-7300.
Got gold? Get green at Jewels on Hampton. Jewels on Hampton pays the most for your precious metals, jewelry, gems, currency, antiques, and collectibles. Jewels on Hampton buys precious and semi-precious gems and stones, scrap gold, and sterling silver. Jewels on Hampton buys and sells paper money, wristwatches, and pocket watches. They even take pianos and cars. To sum up, bring your gold chains, bracelets, rings, coins, dental gold, and more to Jewels on Hampton, 4506 Hampton Avenue in St. Louis. And get green. Online at jewelsonhampton.com.
Stop feeling embarrassed about thinning hair and start looking and feeling your best with Hair Grow by New Nordic. Available online at Amazon, Walmart.com, and NewNordicUSA.com, or at your local CVS.
Are you retired? Are you thinking about retiring? Who is helping you with retirement? Might be time to check out the show When Retirement Happens, hosted by Kevin Lloyd of Legacy Wealth Advisors. Saturday at 1, Sunday at noon on the Big 550 KTRS.
Welcome back to the Frank and Jill Show on the Big 550 KTRS. Frank Cusimano and Jill Farmer. We are here till 12 o'clock. In our studio right now is a 17-year-old senior-to-be at Lindbergh High School. He'll start next week. His name is Vihan Kadri, and he is an amazing young man. He has started a nonprofit to buy better football helmets for low-income schools. This is among other things. We'll get to the second one in just a little bit. Welcome to the program, Vihan, and tell us why the idea.
Thank you so much for having me here, Mr. Cusimano. I'm really, really excited. So I kind of got into the idea of this nonprofit due to my longstanding interest in brain injuries and sports medicine. Since I can remember, since I was around 4 or 5 years old, I've been watching sports, watching football with my dad. And when I was younger, I actually wanted to play after a few years, but my parents kind of sat me down and they told me about the detrimental and often career-ending injuries that can come in contact sports, especially in football. And so that kind of turned me away from the sport there, but it turned me on to observing player injuries and kind of analyzing them as I watched sports. And so that's where I really gained my interest in sports medicine and pursued a few related initiatives over the past few years. I know a couple of which we'll talk about in a little bit. But Brain Shield was really born from my my desire to help young athletes in our community in St. Louis, because youth are especially vulnerable to the after effects of traumatic brain injuries because their brains are still developing. And so it's really important to me that young people and young athletes in our community, people my age or younger, have the right equipment and are taking the right safety precautions in their sports so that we create a safer community and better sports overall.
Vihan Chaudhry is junior at Lindbergh High School. If you're just joining us, has been on the forefront of trying to bring awareness to the issue that I think a lot of people who are listening may not understand, that, for instance, old football helmets do not provide the protection that we see in some of the modern helmets. And so young kids who are at a school district where they haven't replaced those for a number of years are at much greater risk than those who have the newer technology, which can protect the head better. Do I understand that correctly?
Yes, that's absolutely correct. Over the past 4 or 5 years even, and still even like over the past 1 year, 2 years, we've seen like dramatic evolution in football helmets, especially lacrosse helmets, baseball helmets, because I'll take football helmets as an example. Older football helmets didn't have the technology, which we now call a decoupling technology, that modern football helmets do. So a lot of the newer football helmets, you might have heard of Visis 02 Trench, the Schutt F7, Riddell Speed Flex, and the Axiom. They have an outer shell and an inner shell, where the outer shell can actually rotate independently of the inner shell, and that better helps to prevent brain injury. So we're seeing a lot of evolution, and it's really important that kids get the best quality helmets of today.
We should say studies by Boston University's CTE Center have found that CTE in 99% of the brains of deceased former NFL players studied. All right, so how are you coming along? How are you raising money? What are you doing?
So I'm still in the very early stages of this. I started it over the past, I've been working since last year to kind of get the nonprofit started, but I started raising money really over the past 2-3 weeks. I started a GoFundMe. If you want to access that, it's gofundme.com/charity/brainshield. And so what I do there is we're just trying to get as much money raised as possible, so that we can donate good quality helmets to some of the school teams and sport programs that are in need in St. Louis. I actually compiled a list of schools, and my mom and I, she's been helping me out a little bit, have been calling these schools and sports programs to see what their need is. And it's the summer, so I wasn't sure how much we were really going to get, but we've already gotten around 40 requests for helmets. 40 requests for around 40 helmets across a lot of sports, including catcher's masks. So pretty amazing to see that, and I'm really excited to continue in the school year.
Vihan, a lot of other 17-year-olds have spent their summer gaming and hanging out with their friends. You, meanwhile, are trying to protect children's and young athletes' heads from having future head trauma. What was the most shocking thing that you learned in doing your research and talking to medical professionals and reading about this? What lit the fire, if you will, in you to want to make such a big change?
Ooh, that's a good question. Well, I've heard a lot from medical professionals talking about kids who may not have the right equipment, who are sustaining injuries at younger ages and really suffering the CTE and long-term effects of those. I feel like for me, my passion actually came from my own personal experience. So I've been interested in sports injury prevention from a very young age, but actually around 3 years ago, my grandfather actually suffered a fall, and my mom, my dad, it was like in the morning, I just woke up. They immediately were taking him to the emergency room after the fall, and they got him a CT scan, and he had a very severe brain bleed. So that was a really, really scary experience for me. Thankfully, he had a phenomenal neurosurgery team, and he was able to recover, but that really allowed me to empathize with families of athletes and athletes themselves who suffered these kind of injuries. So that gave me the passion to really go forward and try to solve this issue as much as I can myself.
So the other thing you're doing is actually working on a helmet that would be safer. So
yes.
How do you do this? You're 17 years old. Do you have the skill set to come up with your own helmet? Tell me about this.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for asking about this. So I actually started this after the incident with my grandfather. I was like, okay, I want to take this issue into my own hands. And so around that time, actually, later in my freshman year, it was kind of a coincidence. I'd been reading about something called a shear thickening fluid. And shear thickening fluids you might have heard of one. It's called oobleck, which is actually what I used in my project, as I'll explain in just a second.
Which is kind of like slime that people make at home?
Yeah, it's a suspension of cornstarch in water. So if you've ever made that, if you like wave your fingers through it, it'll feel very liquid, but if you push down hard on it, it solidifies quickly. And so I've been reading about that, and then after my grandfather's incident, I saw an article where they were using shear thickening fluids, or STFs, in body armor. And I was like, okay, this is great. Maybe we can put it in a helmet. Because the idea would be that if it solidifies, it elongates the deceleration time in helmets, and it allows a player to collide a little bit more softly, elongate that deceleration time again. And so I started off in my basement, actually trying to get a proof of concept experiment. My dad went to the store, I think it was Walmart or Target, he bought like 5 cartons of eggs. We were going to try an egg drop experiment at home, and so it was super rudimentary. I grabbed a Ziploc from my pantry. We made oobleck in a steel bowl, filled up the Ziploc. We used duct tape to like wrap it around and prevent leakage. Then we pasted in a helmet, used tape, strapped the egg on top, and we just started dropping it down our basement stairwell. And actually what we found was that the egg was slightly cracking when the oobleck was under it, but just with the helmet, it was breaking fully. So I was like, okay, the oobleck is doing something. Let's take this another step forward. So after that, I consulted with a professor at the McKelvey School of Engineering and WashU, as well as the Virginia Tech Helmet Lab. And I was very fortunate to be able to do so. I mean, professors are so busy, and so I was really lucky to get some of their time and their insights into how I could better my experimental design. And over the next year, I worked with a little bit with their ideas as well, worked to refine my layer and standardize the process of making it. And I was able to, I came from my egg drop experiment now I'm using a vacuum sealer to get the oobleck inside of the bag, and then also a Mylar bag to encapsulate it from the outside, which is very puncture resistant, flexible, and has huge tensile strength. So that layer, and then I actually reached out to the Rawlings Sporting Goods Tech facility here in St. Louis, and yes, right here actually, and they were super gracious, and they allowed me to come in and test my layer, and I tested it there. And after that, I've presented it over this past year at a couple different medical conferences, at the Junior Science and Humanities Symposium with the Department of Defense, and I won first place here in the state of Missouri, and also top 10 at the international level. So that was a absolutely fantastic experience to be able to share some of the work that I've done.
Fantastic.
All right, this is awesome. Oh, by the way, have you seen the movie Concussion? The
I have
NFL
not.
movie? Oh, you should watch that. It's really about the great or the terrible history of concussions in the NFL. And what's your GPA?
My GPA is
perfect.
4.0.
Have you ever gotten a B?
I have not.
Poor guy. And how about ACT or SAT?
ACT. I took the ACT.
What was that?
I got a 36 on that.
So he's going to be just fine.
Jill and I each got 36s, but we had to combine.
Yeah, exactly. I just have to say, so many of our texters on our text line, great interview, just fascinating. We need more teens like this. Vian, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. This was fascinating.
And then one more time, if people wanted to help out,
yes,
it's GoFundMe as you try to help get safer helmets to underprivileged areas. How do they get in touch with you?
Absolutely. So my GoFundMe, if you like to donate, it's gofundme.com/charity/brainshield. Sorry, I'll say that again. gofundme.com/charity/brainshield. You'll scroll down, and my GoFundMe is right there. You can donate. I would really, really appreciate every single donation. If you can't donate, that's totally fine. Another thing that would be greatly appreciated is if you could go to YouTube and subscribe to the Sports Medicine channel. That's where I educate and advocate about sports injury prevention and traumatic brain injury prevention. So if you subscribe to the Sports Medicine channel, that also really, really helps me out. And if you'd like to get in touch with me, don't hesitate to email me at brainshieldnonprofit@gmail.com. That's brainshieldnonprofit@gmail.com. Thank you so much.
Vihan Chaudhry, the 17-year-old senior to be at Lindbergh High School. We'll take a short time out. We'll be right back.
And now, KTRS weather from the John Beal Roofing Weather Desk.
Some heat and some humidity, sure, today and tomorrow, but nothing too extreme. I think it gets hotter and even more humid as we head from Friday into the weekend. But in the meantime, not bad by August standards. We'll call today mostly sunny, a near normal high at about 88. Let's be ready for a spot shower or thunder shower possible, but a lot of dry time. Mostly clear skies overnight tonight, not bad, a low of around 70. And then tomorrow, just a touch less humid even. Mostly sunny, up to 89 on Thursday afternoon. Let's be ready for highs in the mid, maybe even upper 90s from Friday through the weekend and into Monday. That's when the heat index reaches triple-digit territory. Again, that's Friday into the coming weekend. From the First Alert 4 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers on the Big 550 KTRS.
John Beal Roofing is the home of the lowest price roofing guarantee. Get a free estimate today at johnbealroofing.com.
Andy from Hats and Stuff. Man, it's hot out there, and so are the deals at Hats and Stuff. Unbelievable prices on Cardinals, Blues, Mizzou, NFL, and City SC merchandise. Thousands of items under $20. And don't forget the cowboy hats. We also have a huge $10 t-shirt program on St. Louis-inspired themes as well. Located in Westport Plaza, across from the Drunken Fish and the Kobe Steakhouse, and 24/7 at hatsandstuff.com and the Soulard Farmers Market on Saturdays.
Hats and Stuff. Good stuff at really great prices.
Your biggest choice in home restoration is
Who do you trust with your home, your most valued asset? Few can match Banner Construction's experience and dedication to excellence. Banner is an elite preferred James Hardie contractor and Pella Windows specialist. Restoration is a one-time opportunity to have Banner's design team show you architectural options to make your home the neighborhood showcase. Call for a free consultation, 314-569-1050. And have a Banner Day.
Kuna Food Service has been the trusted food supplier in the Midwest since 1918. For over 100 years, Kuna Food Service has been distributing the highest quality food products to some of your favorite restaurants while delivering superior customer service. When a restaurant puts their trust in Kuna Food Service, they get a team that truly cares about their success. That's why at Kuna, they like to say, they're big enough to handle it, yet small enough to care. Check them out online at kunafoodservice.com.
I'm Mark Cantor. Here's why you can count on Cantor Injury Law.
My name is Michelle. I'm a litigation paralegal at Cantor Injury Law, and you can count on Cantor because we are smart, honest, and hardworking.
I'm Kevin Glenn, and a partner here at Cantor Injury Law. You can count on Cantor because we make your cause our cause.
No fee if no recovery. Please visit cantorinjurylaw.com or call us at 314-628-9999.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements.
Your dentures no longer fit? Maybe you're missing a tooth or several teeth. Visit Dr. Bowen for Simply Secure Dentures and Dental Implants, the cutting-edge, high-quality dental implants that replace all the teeth in your mouth, and it starts as low as $7,000, not the $35,000 that others charge. If you're only missing a few teeth, Dr. Bowen can permanently replace those with something you don't have to take in and out of your mouth. Learn more at simplysecuredentures.com and get the care you need and the teeth you want at Bowen Dental Care or simplysecuredentures.com.
Becoming a truck driver doesn't have to be complicated. At Schneider, we make it easy to get your commercial driver's license and start your new career. With our CDL apprenticeship training, you'll get paid to become a truck driver in just 5 to 6 weeks and have a Schneider driving job waiting for you when you've completed the program. Plus, during training, Schneider will provide transportation, lodging, and meals at no cost to you. Ready to get your career on the road? Learn more and apply today at SchneiderJobs.com. That's SchneiderJobs.com.
The Bommarito Automotive Group is Missouri's #1 automotive group. They've sold over 1 million vehicles by giving you a better price, a better selection, and more for your trade. You can shop them online anytime at bommarito.com.
Want a song?
Around my mind like the song on the radio.
Want a quote? It's the song and quote of the day on the Frank and Jill Show. Right here on the Big 550 KTRS.
Do you remember what you got on your ACTs, Frank?
No, I took the SAT. That was
that was the style at the time, right?
Yeah, I know I got to 1,000, but barely. But it wasn't an off the charts number at all. I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, I just loved everything about that. He's not only is he brilliant, but he's really good at communicating what he's passionate about.
Yeah.
Planning, we didn't have time to tell. He told us off the air that he's planning to study biomedical engineering at whatever lucky college decides to take him in, because he's going to do great things. He's already starting doing great things. I can't wait to see where he goes.
He is the son of 2 doctors, so he's a sharp guy.
Yeah, and not necessarily just going to follow to med school. He's still thinking about it, but he really likes this idea of designing something that makes the world a better place. John and I were having a conversation the other day about some of the greatest lead singers of bands who just had voices that absolutely knocked your socks off. And I think you guys may agree that this band and this lead singer is at least toward the top of this list. See what you think. Of course.
What a great song.
I know. I absolutely love that song. Steve Perry, Journey. That's 1980 hit from the Departure album. I think that's inarguable that he has one of the best voices. I know he couldn't hold on to that range over time. That's very hard on your voice. And so famously, they had a replacement lead singer come in who had a voice that sounded very much like Steve Perry, because you'd have to, right? Nobody could sing that music unless they were able to make it sound almost just like him.
Yeah, it's like it's not a deep. It's a little bit higher, but it's like mellifluous. It's rich. You know, there's a broadcaster by the name of Al Michaels whose voice was a little bit higher, but it was so rich, and that's a rare blend.
Yeah, kind of that tenor voice. But can you say that word one more time? I can never say it clearly.
Mellifluous.
Mellifluous. And what's my favorite kind of French pastry that I like to eat?
Croissant.
A croissant. Those are two of my favorite words that you say. I'm not going to lie. And is it because I can't say them that well? Probably.
My friend, by the way, speaking of croissants, just texted me and said he went to Nathaniel Reed, and he's in medical sales, and it's the only way to get into doctors. If they see him with a big box of Nathaniel Reed, come right in, right this way, sir. Let's talk about your product. Yeah, it's the best.
It is, and it when we celebrated your 1 year at KTRS, that's what we celebrated with.
Very nice
and
of you.
It doesn't get much better than that. Kelly Ripa, of course, she's been, I think when she started on what then was as the replacement for Kathy Lee Gifford on with Regis Philbin and then lots of other co-anchors. People weren't sure she was going to be around so long. Turns out she has been. And, of course, her co-host now is her husband, Mark Consuelos. They were soap opera stars together, and they've made the transition over into talk television. Some people think very well. They've done that transition quite well. Kelly Ripa was recently on the Not Gonna Lie podcast with Kylie Kelsey, which we talked about yesterday, becoming a very popular podcast. Another Kelsey in the business, and that, of course, is Jason's wife, Kylie. This is what Kelly Ripa had to say when people questioned her about whether it was a good idea to work with her husband again full time. It was, I mean, they worked together as actors on, as I said, on the soap opera. I think that's where they fell in love. So it's not the first time they've done it, but apparently it's working pretty well.
Yeah. 3 kids, been married for a long time. A real success story.
Yeah, the kids are all grown up, and it's kind of like they talked about the kids a lot, which Kathy Lee Gifford used to take so much guff about that her whole shtick was just talking about the 2 kids that she had, but it worked pretty well for her as well, and she. Other than being in the public eye and talking about your family, and when your husband does things like have affairs with flight attendants like Frank Gifford did, that was not an easy thing for them to go through.
Yeah. She revealed she had misophonia. Do you know what that is? That's that. It triggers like negative emotion. Have you ever heard of that?
Mm-mm.
I know she did. Let me see here. It was kind of shocked me because she seems like the most positive person ever. Of course, if you have a long time ago, she revealed that. Misophonia, and for some reason that disease triggers like all sorts of negative emotion, and she seems like the most positive, happy person ever. So she must be doing well with it, or the medication is great.
And you're talking about Kathy Lee Gifford, not
I'm talking about
Kelly Ripa.
Miss Ripa. Yes.
Oh yeah, no, I did not know that.
Yeah,
interesting.
A strong reaction to specific sounds is what misophonia is, I think.
Yeah, so that's people who hate to hear other people chewing in microphones and stuff, which is, but there's another, I think I know what you're referring to. But yes, she struggled with something. Now that you say that, it sounds somewhat familiar to me, but I can't remember what it was. You don't work mornings. Are you somebody who watches that kind of programming, the Kelly Clarkson show or The View, stuff targeted traditionally toward women at home during the day?
I don't think I've ever watched it. No. I'll just glance at news programs for this program and then listen to podcasts.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, those shows used to be all you had to watch because that was what was on, because we didn't have a million different streaming or other options on cable. So I think their relevance has changed a bit. It's not quite what it used to be.
Didn't we all watch Phil Donahue at one time? Yeah.
I mean, yeah, because that was it.
A long time ago,
He was the only show in town.
And then Oprah just kind of blew him away. And not that they were in the same time slot, but in terms of popularity and in markets and ratings.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. And who's his wife? Phil Donahue's
Marlo Thomas.
Marlo Thomas.
That girl.
Do you remember seeing the replay of the time when they kind of fell in love and the spark when she was on the show and he was interviewing her and he kind of gets tongue tied and there was definitely, I mean, you could sort of see it happening in real time. It's kind
He's
of
no longer with us, right? Is that no? Wait,
I don't know.
right?
We'll have to find that out. We'll come back from the break. And the real question of the day is Phil Donahue still alive? We'll let you know after this. But first, our friends at Altair Travel and Cruises. Boy, it's really fun for me to be able to say, hey, somebody's talking about, we think we might want to go to, and they name a destination, but they show some hesitation because it feels like a lot to plan the trip and it feels overwhelming. And I love being able to say, just call my friends at Altair Travel and Cruises. They got you. They can help figure it out. They know the companies that you want to work with if you're looking for that all-inclusive, the cruise lines. They know all the deals. They know the pitfalls of some tour companies versus the others. And that's because they've been doing this for so long, and they have such a good reputation at taking care of their customers and providing the most creative, insightful, and just powerful customer service. If things go awry due to when you're traveling because of crazy things like weather or strikes or anything else, it's so nice to know that you have a team on the ground back home in St. Louis that can help make things right for you no matter where you are in the world. AltairTravel.com, 318-368-9600.
The University of Missouri-St. Louis is committed to providing top-ranked education. More than 80% of our students receive financial aid. At UMSL, more is what moves us. Find your more and explore your financial aid options at more.umsl.edu.
Bob Ramsey for AAA Home Services, a local, family-owned and family-run American Standard Heating and Air Conditioning Platinum dealer that's been keeping St. Louis comfortable and safe for 55 years. They service all brands, so schedule them to service your AC before it gets too hot. And if you need a new system, they'll give you a fair and honest estimate on American Standard, voted #1 by Consumer Reports. You'll get the best pricing and tax credits of 2025. Call AAA at 636-397-3200, online at AAASTL.com. Call AAA. We're on our way.
Zero is your hero at HW Kia. Zero down, zero payments for 90 days, or 0% for 48 months. Even zero tariff pricing on every clearly marked new HW Kia in stock. Stuck in your loan or lease? Big D, the trade man, wants to get you released. Up to 120% over fair market value for your trade. Have a job clearing $450 a week? You're practically approved. Only at HWKia.com. Unapproved credit, not all qualified. Plus tax, title, license, 587, title, and registration process. Negative equity, refinanced, and new loan expires September 6, 2025. Zero is your hero at HW Kia. Zero down, zero payments for 90 days, or 0% for 48 months. Even zero tariff pricing on every clearly marked new HW Kia in stock. Have a job clearing $450 a week? You're practically approved. Lease a new Seltos S, Nero LX, or Soul, just $99 a month. And you guessed it, zero security deposit. Only at HWKia.com. Unapproved credit, not all qualified. Plus tax, title, license, 587, title, and registration process. Negative equity, refinanced, and new loan, 24 months, 10,000 mile lease, 49.95 due. Offers not a combination. Expires September 6, 2025.
If you suffer from burning, tingling, or numb feet, listen closely as we discuss neuropathy with Dr. Patton, D.C. What is neuropathy?
Peripheral neuropathy is nerve damage to the feet and legs.
And what are the symptoms?
The symptoms are numbness, burning, tingling, pain, and loss of balance.
Is neuropathy treatable?
It's absolutely treatable, and we have amazing results.
If you have burning, tingling, numbness, coldness in your feet or hands, or balance issues, call Comprehensive Integrated Healthcare today for a nerve damage screening. Don't wait until your symptoms are so severe that nothing can be done. End-stage neuropathy leaves people confined to walkers, wheelchairs, even amputations. The first 10 callers will receive a free nerve damage screening. Simply call 636-241-9370. Act now. Call 636-241-9370. Be among the first 10 callers and get this important screening for free. 636-241-9370.
Some of my fondest memories as a kid is heading down to the hardware store. You had to pick up a couple of nails, a couple of screws, maybe a gallon of paint, whatever it may be, right? It was your friendly neighborhood hardware store. Well, those don't exist anymore in St. Louis, except for Schnarr's Hardware. They have 2 locations in Webster Groves and in Clayton Road in Ladue. Schnarr's Hardware is that place where you go in and you can get that bucket of paint, you can get a couple screws. The advice is always free. And the one thing about Schnarr's Hardware that every single family hardware store used to have, and that is the smell. It smells like a hardware store. It's got the selection. I don't know how they do it. It's a small store, but they got everything you ever need. They got the paint. They got paint matching. They've got big green eggs. They've got screws and nails and everything a hardware store should have. Schnarr's Hardware, 2 locations, 1 great hardware store. Schnarr's Hardware, we'll see you there.
I'm Bob Hardcastle. Listen to my Money Talk radio program every Sunday morning from 8 to 9 a.m. on the Big 550, where we discuss your money in an easy-to-understand manner. We have interesting guests, chat about money. We try to help you feel more comfortable with your money by talking about the investment market. Join me. I'm Bob Hardcastle.
Money Talk, Sunday morning at 8 on the Big 550 KTRS.
All right, welcome back. Tomorrow, the weekly special brought to you by our good friends at Kuna. And it's going to be one of the great restaurants in St. Louis, The Crossing. My sister's actually going to go there tonight, give us a little scouting report. I haven't been there in a little bit, but Mr. Fiala does a spectacular job. Everybody loves The Crossing. Phil Donahue, no longer with us, passed away in April of 2024.
And we want to remind people, coming up on August 21st, Radiothon, KTRS. Go to KTRS.com. If you donate $100, you can win all kinds of great things, including 4 Cardinals tickets and a chance to a trip for 2 on a private plane last day of the 2026 Masters. Donate $200 and you can get Cardinals tickets, Blues tickets, City tickets, and 3 chances to win that incredible Masters trip. We have a great show coming up for you tomorrow. The new president of St. Louis University is going to be joining us on the show. In addition to The Crossing, it's going to be a great one. John Carney show up next with Julie and Max, of course. Josh is off, but Heidi and Bob will be here a little bit later. Keep your dial right here. Thanks, as always, for being with us, and we'll see you tomorrow.
You're still glowing, flirting, grooving.